Assalamualaikum to our respected lecturer, Dr. Izzat Fahmi. My name is Nufriza Adrana binti Muhammad Yuswan from class AP1266A. Today, I will be presenting on the topic of approximate estimating in construction. In this presentation, I will cover about the definition and importance of approximate estimating, followed by the method that can be used along with their advantages and limitations of each method. I also be explain about the application to a provided project scenario, and finally the conclusion and recommendations. Approximate estimating is a preliminary method used to calculate the likely cost of a construction project. It is typically applied during the early stage of the development when complete design details such as drawing and specifications are not yet available. Rather than relying on detailed measurement, this method uses historical cost data, standard unit rate, and general assumption to generate a rough estimate. While it does not involve exact quantity, it provides a general overview of the expected project costs. This technique is important because it enables early financial planning and budgeting before the final design is completed. It also allows the project stakeholder to assess the feasibility and viability of a proposed development. Approximate estimating also supports decision making by helping to compare alternative design option or a construction method based on cost implication. Ultimately, it helps to reduce the financial certainty during the early phase of the construction process. The purpose of approximate estimating is to give an early idea of the total construction cost using basic details such as layout, size, and building type. It also helps in guiding design, planning, and budgeting before work design begins. The estimate also lets stakeholders check if the project suits the client's budget and compare different design options. Overall, it helps in making quick, informed decisions during the early project stage. The first method that can be used in approximate estimating is unit rate method. Unit rate method estimate cost by multiplying the approximate quantity of a specific work item with a known unit rate. These unit rates are typically obtained from historical project record, current market prices, or contractor database, and they may vary depending on location, material specification, and labor condition. This method allows for a quick and practical estimation of measurable components such as flooring, painting, piping, and wall finishes, especially during the early design stage when detailed drawings are not available. It also helps in comparing alternative material or construction method to identify the most cost-effective solution. For example, if a project requires internal wall plastering for a total area of 1,200 square meter and the unit rate for plastering is 18 ringgit per meter square based on current contractor pricing in the region, the estimated cost would be 21,600 ringgit Malaysia. The second method that can be used in approximate estimating is cubic method. This cubic method estimates construction cost by multiplying the total enclosed volume of a building in cubic meters with a standard cost per cubic meter. This total volume is calculated using the formula length times width times height, accounting for the internal height from floor to ceiling. The cost rate per cubic meter is typically derived from similar completed project and adjusted based on the type, scale, and complexity of the building. This method is particularly suitable for buildings with significant height or large internal volume such as warehouse, factory, and multi-story office building. It provides a more accurate approximation for such structure compared to a method that based on a floor area. For example, a proposed office building has dimensions of 30 meter length with 20 meter width and 15 meter height. The total volume of this building was 9,000 meter cube. Typical cost rate for multi-story office construction was 720 ringgit per meter cube. So, the estimated cost would be 6,480,000 ringgit Malaysian. Furthermore, the method that can be used in approximate estimating is floor area method. The floor area method estimates construction cost by multiplying the total gross floor area of a building by a standard cost per square meter. The gross floor area includes all built-up spaces such as internal room, corridor, staircases, wall, and service area. The rate per meter cube is generally obtained from cost data of a similar completed project, and it adjusted based on a factor such as geographical location, architectural design, and building usage. This method is widely used during the conceptual and preliminary design phase for projects like residential home, shop lot, office building, and public facility. It offers a practical and quick estimation when detailed specifications are not yet available. For example, a single-story retail shop lot is proposed with a total gross floor area of 320 meter cube. Typical cost rate for shop lot construction was 1,850 ringgit per meter cube per meter square. So, the estimated cost would be 592,000 ringgit. The last method that can be used in approximate estimation is story enclosure method. The story enclosure method estimates construction costs based on the total enclosed volume per story, taking into account both floor area and floor-to-floor heights. This method is particularly useful when the vertical dimension significantly influence construction costs, such as in high-rise building. The cost is calculated by multiplying the total enclosed volume by a standard rate per cubic meter, which varies depending on the building's function, structural system, and the level of the complexity. This method provides a more refined estimate compared to the floor area method, especially when the floor heights vary or vertical design plays a major role in the building cost. For example, a proposed secondary school block has a total area of 1,200 meters square across two-story building. Each story has a floor-to-floor height of 3.5 meter, so the total enclosed volume would be 8,400 meter cube. Cost rate for educational building was 590 ringgit per meter cube, and the total estimated cost would be 4,956 ringgit Malaysia. Next, I will explain about the advantages and limitations of the method. One of the main advantages of the unit method is it offers a quick and practical way to estimate construction costs during the early stage of a project. It also allows for easy adjustment when comparing different material or construction system, making it useful for early decision making. This method works particularly well for projects with repetitive element or component that can be clearly measured, like housing block or hotel's room. However, the accuracy of this method depends heavily on how reliable and relevant the historical unit rates are. It may not fully account for project-specific factors such as site constraint, design complexity, or the use of special finishes. Also, the scope of this method is limited if a detailed breakdown of a quantity is not available, especially for a non-standard or one-off design. Next, the advantage of the cubic method is it provides a more accurate estimate for multi-story buildings that have uniform story heights. It also helps to reduce the time needed to prepare preliminary cost estimate, especially when details drawings are not yet available. This method is particularly helpful when comparing the cost efficiency of different building volume during the early design phase. On the downside, the cubic method is not reliable for building with a mixed-use space or varying floor heights, as it assumes uniformity. It also does not reflect differences in finishes material or structural complexity between the buildings. And finally, it depends on having accurate height data, which may not always be available in the early stage of the design. One of the main advantages of the floor area method is it quick and practical for early budgeting. It also useful during the project conceptual stage of a project when full design drawings are not yet available. The estimation can still be done based on a basic layout and assumed space requirement. Another benefit is that it allows easy comparison between different building design using a standard cost basis, which help stakeholders to choose more cost-efficient option. However, the floor area method also have some limitation. It does not take into account differences in floor-to-ceiling height or double volume spaces, which may affect the actual cost. It also cannot reflect variation in the types of finishes, material, or structural design between one project and another. Lastly, this method usually excluded external work and costs related to the site, which means the final estimate may be lower than the actual project cost. Next is story enclosure method. The story enclosure method is more accurate than basic floor area method because it considers the total enclosed volume of the building. This method also takes into account different story height, which give a more realistic cost estimate, especially for a building with varying floor to ceiling dimension. It also provides a more detailed result even when only partial drawings are available, making it a practical option during the early design stage of a multi-story building. Despite its accuracy, this method does have limitation too. It requires detailed volume measurement and elevation drawing, which may not always be available at the initial planning stage. It also less suitable for irregular shaped building or open structure, as the calculating the actual enclosed volume can be complicated. And the lastly is, it does not include the cost of external work or services, which need to be estimated separately for a complete cost picture. On the other hand, I will explain about the application to a provided project scenario. For the project titled Cadangan Membina dan Menyiapkan satu unit rumah kediaman batu satu tingkat, the most appropriate method for approximate estimating is the floor area method. This method is considered suitable because the proposed residential unit is a single-story building with a straightforward layout, which allow for the gross floor area to be easily determined. The design also incorporates common material and standard construction techniques such as reinforced concrete slab and pitch roofing, which align with the widely available cost data per square meter. At the early stage of the design, detailed specification and full construction drawing are usually not yet available. Therefore, the floor area method offers a practical solution compared to more complex approaches such as elemental cost analysis. Moreover, since the project does not include any complicated features or specialized design element, the cost per square meter is likely to provide a reasonable, accurate and reliable estimate. Based on the drawing, the total area of this building is 1,505 square meter, which include both the enclosed and open areas. When converted to the square meter, the total area becomes approximately 139.82 square meter. Based on the prevailing market condition for the year 2024 to 2025, the estimated construction cost per square meter is 1,450 ringgit. Therefore, the approximate total construction cost can be calculated as 202,739 ringgit Malaysia. Next, I would like to proceed to the reliability of the cost estimate for this project. There are four main factors that may influence the accuracy of this estimate. The first factor is the project location. This development is situated in Daerah Limbak, Kelantan, which presents certain logistic challenges. Construction materials such as cement, brick and steel are likely to be transported from nearby urban centre like Kota Baru or Pasir Mas. This may increase to the delivery cost. In addition, the availability of skilled labour in the area may be limited, especially during the peak construction period, therefore potential to resulting in higher wage rates. The second factor is inflation between the year 2024 and 2025, which has had a significant impact on the Malaysian construction sector. Increases in fuel prices have led to the higher transportation and machinery operation costs. At the same time, government adjustment to the minimum wage policy have raised overall labour expenses. Currency fluctuation have also affected the cost of imported construction material. All of this inflation pressure reduce the reliability of cost estimate prepared during the early stage of design. Next factor affecting the reliability of cost estimate is material cost. Key construction materials such as cement, steel reinforcement bar, sand and roof tiles are subjected to frequent market price fluctuation. For instance, steel prices may rise due to the global demand or import restriction. In Kelantan, cement supply may also be limited during the northeast monsoon season, which can result in temporary price increases. This price variation can significantly affect the accuracy of the 1,450 ringgit per square meter rate applied in this estimate. The final factor is weather condition and seasonal impact. The project site in Kelantan is exposed to the heavy rainfall during the northeast monsoon period. Prolonged rainfall may delay site activity and disrupt the overall project schedule. In addition, moisture and potential flooding can damage construction material and contribute to increased wastage. These seasonal challenges are not accounted for in the standard unit rate, and therefore may reduce the overall reliability of the cost estimate. To conclude my presentation, this approximate cost estimate was prepared for this project using the floor area method. This method was selected because the building has a simple and functional layout, use standard materials, and the only limited design information is available at this early planning stage. The floor area is 139.82 square meter, which was calculated from the 1,505 square feet and include both the enclosed and open section of the house. Based on the current market of 1,450 ringgit per meter square in Kelantan for the year 2024 to 2025, the estimated construction cost amount to 202,739 ringgit Malaysia. Nevertheless, it is important to note that this estimate may be influenced by several critical factors. These include the locations of the project, any sudden changes in material prices, the impact of inflation, and possible construction delay caused by the weather conditions. To enhance the reliability of approximate cost estimate, I would like to propose several recommendations. Firstly, it is important to carry out early site assessment to understand ground condition, site accessibility, and any physical limitation that may lead to the higher construction costs. Next is contingency allowance should be included in the estimate to cover unforeseen risks such as design changes or extreme weather. And the lastly is the engagement with the local material supplier should be established from the beginning to ensure accurate pricing for essential materials such as cement, bricks, and timber, while also identifying potential risks that related to the supply shortage or delivery delays.